Hello and welcome to the CMS Africa Summit. My name is Nelson Luther. I'll be taking through the topic Digital 101 for Developers, the digital experience platform. Before we start, just a little about myself. I currently work at a company known as Alternative, based out of Nairobi, Kenya. Alternative is a digital company with operations within the East African market. My role at Alternative is Business Intelligence Manager, although previously I've served in different functions such as Project Manager and Head of Digital Business. My background, however, is quite diverse. My undergrad was in petroleum engineering, and I've found myself teetering and pivoting towards the entire digital space. Looking back at our topic and where do we start, I think the most important question or the term that keeps getting thrown around is digital. So I'm gonna ask us, what is digital? What does it mean to be digital? As developers, we find ourselves creating website platforms, especially CMS-enabled websites. We find ourselves in this place where we're always creating websites, and customers keep on asking us that they want to be digital. They want an e-commerce shop for their mom and pop shop, and that to them is digital. So the question then really is, what does it mean to be digital? Over the years and from my experience, I think you could categorize that in 4 places, but that's not to summarize it all. So digital might be community. Where we are right now, digital is a lot of social, a lot of content that's on YouTube or TikTok, short form content platforms, long form content platforms. Digital is networks, interacting with millions of people at the speed of light, even within this conference, doing it virtually, doing it online, and being able to interact in the same seamless way. But also in the same breath as networks being connections and people connecting, it's also data transfer and data connecting. Digital therefore could also be data and the exchange of information. If you look at the rise of the computer age, digital is defined sometimes as zeros and ones, and being able to write information and send information in zeros and ones. Digital could also mean technology. But then the question that I'd like to pose to us, or the question that I like to pose to you is that really digital? So I'll take you on a journey based on my experience working within the digital space, the digital domain, and the experience Alternative has gone through within the digital space in the East African community. So circle back 10 plus years ago, the rise of social media was happening. This is mainstream social media, it's not the MySpace social media era. So this is Facebook coming to its prime, this is Twitter coming to its prime, and this was the new buzz. So everyone thought this was digital. We were here, we were able to send pictures, you're able to poke someone, you're able to send a tweet, a DM, things that right now are part and parcel of our intricate day and lives. But at that time, it seemed revolutionary. You could be able to communicate with your relatives halfway across the world without having to send them an email, without having to give them a call. And social media became this huge space that allowed all of these things to happen. So what tended to happen at that particular point in time? We saw a lot of brands, businesses, SMEs ask themselves, where do I fit within that space? And what does that look like? And what does that mean for me? So as part of Alternative during that entire time, we started working with brands to offer them social media services, to be able to put them on social media. And at that particular point in time, most of the objectives that brands had was to communicate, to reach, to have awareness, to have engagement with their audiences, with their consumers. And with that in mind, that was digital. And for a long time, that was enough. So trending used to be such a big thing. Some may argue it still is, but at that particular point in time, you could break the internet. We had multiple people breaking the internet, and to break the internet at that particular point in time just meant being trending, being the person who's drawing conversation. Your tweet could lead to a trend. And during those days, KOT was such a huge thing, especially for the Kenyan community. KOT took up in CNN, took up in different governments. We saw people like Malala popping up during this time using social media. And that particular point in time, social media was digital. But was that enough? And how does that relate to us as developers? So I ask ourselves again, as we continue down that path, playing on digital, sitting on digital, using it to communicate, then we got to this age of advertisement, and advertisement sipping onto social, and advertisement sipping into digital, and then Facebook changed its platform, which meant that anyone could now at this particular point in time start a business, and you could run ads on Facebook, and that allowed you to sell and to reach audiences in different cities, different locations, and literally virtually have a Facebook business. Instagram shops became such a menace. Even right now, I know I particularly enjoy the odd going onto Instagram to shop, to see a few things, and that became the next iteration of the digital space, where we were seeing a rise of advertisement sipping into digital, and then the goals changed, the objectives changed. At that particular point in time, it meant that digital was this space where people could reach each other, you could interact with each other, but then apart from that, you could get people to take a call to action, to take an action, to buy a product, or more or less. So with that, we saw massive rise with the use of Google and their platforms, whether it's their display ad platforms or their search ad platforms. For commerce people, we saw a rise in the Google shopping ads. For Facebook, there was a range of tools and technologies that were there geared specifically for commerce heads, and for people within the digital space to be able to start their shops at the click of a finger. But then I still ask myself, is that digital, and what does that mean? So as we moved to this space where we were advertisement heavy, media also got rethought. So as you're running your ads, then what media are you using? Is the media you use offline the same as the media you use on your digital channels? Can you still run the old-fashioned TVC ads that you'd run on your cable TV or on your subscription TV or your free-to-air TV on digital? Does this stay the same? So we saw a rise in new age content creators and platforms that were geared specifically for these people. Whether it's on YouTube with co-creators, and the phrase "hello, welcome to my channel" is such a catchphrase that all of us, most of us tend to recognize, because that's a thing that we got engineered into. So the rise in media and how media sipped into digital and how it played together with the three pillars that we had up to that point, being advertisement, being the social platform, the social channels, and what that brought to people. So media got rethought and how media was consumed. Short form video ads started being the norm, of the way and the norm. So before this point, when people are just being social, you used to see a lot of images, a lot of artworks, a lot of creatives, or just people posting their own pictures. When we got to this particular point, the rise of GIFs started, and for the longest time, even the word GIF and how it's pronounced was such a controversial issue. Is it GIF? Is it GIF? Who knows? But this was where we found ourselves at that particular point in time. Video became another phenomenon, and this was also influenced by other external factors, technology advancements, our phone advancements, getting better cameras on our phones, which meant that anyone, anywhere could create dope content, dope audiovisual content, and this would be permeated across the world, and you could trend across the world, and multiple careers have risen. In Kenya, particularly, we have people like Njugush who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, millions of viewers consuming their content, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute content. But then I still ask, is this digital? So another part of this, as everything was coming together and more parts were coming together, and everyone could see their place in on the digital space. Brands could see that they could use social channels, digital channels to reach their audiences, not just to communicate, not just to connect to them, but also to push an agenda, to ask them for an action. So then we got to this place where there was a flurry, or there was a lot of, we got to this place where there was a lot of sameness, a sea of sameness. What that meant was that instead of the generation that was there continuing to use platforms such as Facebook, people tended to move towards communities. they wanted personalization, they wanted personal experiences. So what we saw at that particular point was generations such as the millennials, who are really the first uptakers of Facebook, started moving to other platforms that were geared towards community. Platforms such as TikTok, platforms such as Reddit, platforms such as Pinterest. This really drew a lot of traffic. And even with the rise of the other generations, your Gen Zs, them coming into place, them coming into the digital space, Facebook, Instagram started losing traction, still reaching a huge audience, but people are looking for communities. They're looking for spaces that are curated for them, with experiences that are specifically made for them. At this particular point in time, for brands, for businesses who are trying to reach these audiences, we saw a rise in marketing automation. I think the popular tool that everyone knows about is MailChimp, and using MailChimp to connect, get data, get people to sign up, to give you their email addresses, to give you their phone numbers, and then to be able to send to them specific, personalized, one-on-one information. But then also, as we got to that point, the question we still asked is this digital? I think the last part within, or the second last part within the whole digital equation, or what exactly is digital, was the channels. When we began long time ago, I think we had MySpace, and MySpace was a terrific platform. Then we moved to the more recent world where we had Facebook, Twitter coming into play. Right now there's multiple channels in multiple locations, whether it's Snapchat, whether it's the rise of TikTok, whether it's the pivot between the different platforms that we have, be it Instagram and how it's being used right now, moving to commerce. If you look at the Chinese market, their trajectory is quite different. They don't necessarily use Facebook or Instagram, but platforms there such as WeChat have moved and have moved forward and really changed how we view these platforms. So we are getting to this place now where we're having super apps. And what does it mean to be a super app? Does it mean that you're able to connect your consumer? Does it mean that you're able to engage your consumer and give them a call to action and hold them within that whole ecosystem where they're able to take these actions and not have to move to another app? In Kenya, for the longest time, one of the things that has been a champion, a bread and butter for all of us, a sense of pride, has been M-Pesa. Over the last 10, 15 years, that's revolutionized how we've conducted ourselves, how business is done. Multiple times I've interacted with foreigners, and the first thing they've complained about, not in a bad way, is that once you get here, when you want to go into your cab guy will ask you, do you have M-Pesa? When you go to the shop, the shopkeeper will ask you, do you have M-Pesa? So for someone who's not used to this ecosystem, where payment is digital, where all of these things are digital, it becomes a challenge. But then for the brands, the businesses that are within and part and parcel of this ecosystem, it's almost become an imperative that M-Pesa is part of your ecosystem, because you're solving for that payment system. But then if you still look at it, is that digital? Does that cover everything? The one part for developers where I think digital might seep in, and I have experienced this from a personal point of view, is that a lot of times when you're dealing with your customers, your consumers, your clients, people would come to you and they say, I want a website. I want a CMS website that's just content-based, or I want an e-commerce website to be able to sell my store. And then you start building the website. So you either use WordPress, Joomla, whatever CMS framework that suits you. So you start building the stuff. Maybe you're using a template, or you're not, or you're doing it from scratch. But then you get to this place where, what is it that you're building? So there's the functionality, but there's no brand, and no one knows how to describe that brand. So what does that look like? What's the look and feel? What's the intention of communication? What's the user experience? And there's that question of brand, and brand changed when it came to digital. Initially, you could just have your logo and colors, and that's all you had to care about. But right now, in the age where we're in, brands have to stand for something. If you look at Nike over the last 2, 3, 5 years, with all that's been going on around the world, with social justice, with racial inequalities, all of those things have seeped into that brand, and even how it's consumed digitally, how it's experienced digitally, factors all of that in. So just to bring it all together, the digital part has multiple components, all working in the same time. We've ticked off a couple of them, be it brand, be it technology, be it consumer experience, be it social, be it connections, be it communities. But the one thing that's true about that digital path is that there's no turning back. once you start digital, there's no off switch. You can go next day and sleep and say, my stuff will run. Because once you're digital, you're connecting people all around the world. You might be getting traffic from Nairobi in your day, in your 9 to 5, and then you go to sleep, but then it's 9 to 5 in China, or it's 9 to 5 in San Francisco, and they're expecting to get the same experience over and over again, 24/7, 365. That's the ask that's being put on you. So then, to view digital, especially for us as developers, there's two things that we need to be aware of. One, what digital is not. So from everything that we've seen, everything that we've said, we know that digital is not linear, digital is not static. However, what we know digital is it's continuous. There's continuous improvement, there's continuous evolution. Each and every day there are new changes, there are new integrations. If you're platform specific, there's always going to be updates for your plugins. If you're on social, Instagram might wake up tomorrow and say maybe they don't want to be Instagram anymore. So what does that mean for you as a developer? As you relate to this, to your consumers, to your customers, how are you setting yourself up to be able to survive in this age where digital is a lot of things that continue to be defined as we go, and it's continuously evolving, it's continuously improving, and you need to be able to aware of this to be able to serve your customers. So over the time, in my experience at Alternative, we got to this place where we looked at it from a digital transformation perspective. I know a lot of people throw in digital transformation as a cool buzzword. Hopefully, because we're developers, maybe we have a sense of idea of what digital transformation looks like. But I'll give you our definition of how we view digital transformation and what that looks like. So we've broken down into three categorizations. At the very bottom, you have your foundation layer. Then you move to your pillars and your outputs. At the foundation level, the way to look at digital transformation is in threefold. You have your channels, you have product alignment, and experiences. Channels are anywhere, any instant of connection between you, your customer, and their consumers. So if you're a developer who's building CMS platforms and it's a website, but you're building a website in Kenya where most of the traffic, about 80% of the traffic is mobile based. So do you build a mobile optimized website? Is that what you're building in mind? Maybe you're building this in a place where smartphones are not that pervasent. So does that mean that you need to build your platform as a USSD platform? The way we look at it is those three boxes are the bread and butter, at the foundation level of what you need to be able to tick off. Being able to choose the right channels in the context of where you are and who you're building for. But then at the same time, as humans, we all have good experiences. We all come back for good experiences, and being able to have seamless experiences that get us using the platform over and over again. And then last but not least, you have to have a dope product. If your product is not aligned with the customers, with the consumers, then you lose them. But to be able to do this, there are a couple of pillars that you need to build in mind. One is brand. What the thing that you're building, what does it stand for? What does it make the user feel? What does it make the people think about? Two is the technology. The age we live in with CMSs, technology gets easier and easier. We're able to simplify and build more complex things at the same time. Three is the product again. So what is it that you're building? What is it that you're creating in whichever sector, segment that you're in, whether it's insurance, whether it's technology, whether it's e-commerce, what's the product that you're building? And then the last part is the service. As we say, digital has no off button. So your consumers, your customers are going to expect that whatever thing that you've created is up and running 24/7, is available 24/7, is available in whatever time zone that they are in. And the outputs of this would be that you have a market-ready solution, you maybe evolve business models, you have improved operational processes, and then you have improved customer experience. So looking at digital transformation from that mind, the one thing that intersects all of this and brings it back to you as a developer, to us as developers, to us as creators, as the technical beings behind these platforms, is what we term as the digital experience platform. So what's a digital experience platform? The digital experience platform basically summarizes and brings all of these things together. You have your data analytics, you have your CMS in there, you're building for search, you're building for commerce, you're building for mobile applications, you're building for social, you're building for marketing, you're building for web portals. All of these things together are what you'd call your digital experience platform. If I, as a customer, come to this platform, am I able to experience everything that you're selling to me in an intuitive way, in a smart way, in a seamless way? Do I need to move elsewhere or come back? Can I do everything that you want me to do within the same space? That is the digital experience platform. That brings together our developer background and connects us within the digital ecosystem to be able to serve our customers, our clients, our consumers. And what that looks like, if you look at the old ways, maybe you had a landing page here or a microsite page here, and I know I've had encounters with clients where when you come back to them and they have their legacy systems, they have their old websites, and they had 20 microsites that are all communicating together, 30 landing pages that are all communicating together. They still have the website, and then they might have country-specific websites. But then if you look at it, what is the problem? What's the solution? This is one entity that has one client, but then the way they've structured themselves, they have the different microsites, the different landing pages, and they're losing the client. That, in this day and age, is not a place where you can be able to live in with your consumer and the variety of options within the market. They tend to get lost in that. So how are we able to build one ecosystem, one place where everything is connected, so that I, as a consumer, experience everything in one portal or one platform? To be able to do this, we need to be aware of a couple of things. One is the digital maturity cycle. So, for example, based on our conversation and what we've had so far, the transition of digital from the social days to digital and advertisement to digital and media to digital technology with the websites and the e-commerce platforms that we're building, there's been a steady incremental growth as we've moved along. The goals and the viability and the options that were available for people have kept on changing, which means that in every stage, in every sector, in every point in time, the expectations for people have always grown. The goals that they have always grown. So for you, for example, for your customers, at one point maybe it was sufficient or enough for them to just have a website. I have a website now, and that was great for them. But then maybe they already had a website. So now the point you're meeting at them is, I want my website to have videos that are always playing so that people can communicate and consume my content. Or maybe they want to be able to have a website where people can be able to communicate with them, and they have a chatbot, and that's a message of communication. Or maybe they're at a place where they want to be able to sell their products, and they want a website that people can come in and be able to buy. So what does that look like? And one of the challenges that we have, especially as developers, as creators within the digital economy, is that we almost have a burden of being able to educate our customers, educate the masses on where they are and where we are and what solutions we're able to give them. So then being able to understand and map out for yourself what that digital maturity cycle looks like, what that curve looks like, so that you're able to correctly connect with your customer, correctly connect with the consumer you're building for, is a key pointer. And speaking about our consumers, customers, and clients, if you look at my screen right now, you'll be able to see a key distinction about that, and that as an example. So as a developer, a lot of times you might find that your customer is a company, an SME, or an individual. And they come to you, your client, and they come to you and they say, hey, I need you to build me a website. And my website is an e-commerce website. So as a developer, what do you do? Your client has said they want a website for their brand, or a website to sell product, and there you are. But then your client has customers that will be coming to them. So customers will be coming to utilize the website that you'll build. So as you're building the website, who are you thinking about? Are you thinking about the client who's given you the brief and they've told you, I want a website that does X, Y, Z? Or are you thinking about the customer that's going to come to that website and utilize the website? What drives you at that particular point in time? In certain situations, you have a third variable where you have a customer who's not necessarily a consumer. A lot of that might happen when you're building B2B solutions. So for example, your customer comes to you, your customer is head of technology at a company X or company Y, and they want a virtual conferencing solution. So for them, they're coming to you as the client. This is the need they've seen in their business. They want to be able to facilitate communication internally, virtually. the customer at this particular point in time is that business. So that business maybe needs that solution that covers all the employees. They have 200 employees, 50 employees, 500 employees. Maybe they have multiple offices across the world. They have an office in Nairobi, in Lagos, in Johannesburg. But then at the end of it, there's the consumer, the person who will actually be using the platform on a day-to-day perspective. So across these different people, there's different touch points, there's different perspectives, and how do you incorporate all of this in mind? How do you bring all of this in mind? Based on our experience building platforms, building products, and working within the digital ecosystem to connect brands to their consumers and companies to their consumers, I think the digital experience platform is the way, and gives us a platform, gives us a benchmark to be able to connect and consume our consumers. What that does is, looking at it, there's a unique approach where we have to utilize our human-centered design. And what does that mean? We have instances where we have a client and consumer. We have instances where we have client, consumers, and customers. As you're building in mind, you obviously think about your client, but you think about your client from a business perspective. But the user, the end user, who's your actual consumer, is the person who you need to think about. So what's the experience? What are they looking for? How would they feel using this on a day-to-day perspective? Would that be something that I, as a person, would like to utilize or to experience? If you look at my screen, I'm showing you a couple of things to think about as you're going about human-centered design, as you're thinking about your consumer. So internally, we call this the headspace. Thinking about where your consumer is, where would they want to be, and we've divided this into two. So if you look at the vertical orientation, there's 4 parts, and then horizontally it permeates as well. So we come at it from a place of I want to. So putting yourself in the consumer's shoes and asking yourself, I want to. If you are the consumer at this particular point in time, what would you want to? What do I want to? So I want to could mean actions. I want to, if it's in insurance, perhaps choose an insurance solution. I want to make a claim. I want to learn. I want to compare. And then you ask yourself again, if I want to compare, I want to choose an insurance solution, what mindset am I in? Am I seeking knowledge? Is it that I think insurance is complex? Is it that I think insurance companies can't be trusted? What is my mindset? And then with that thing, you also ask yourself, so where are the emotions? I want to seek knowledge. Am I confused? Am I indifferent? Am I fearful? And then what problem could they be looking for? Is it that the problem that you're currently facing is that insurance has complex language? Is it that the onboarding process was too lengthy? Was there an unclear value proposition? And then what opportunities then can you as a developer be able to see out of that? Could you maybe propose that we simplify the language? Is it that we shorten the onboarding and the customer journey? How do we improve the product experiences? And being able to see yourself from this particular perspective, seeing yourself in the consumer's shoes, what they'll be experiencing on a day-to-day perspective, helps you really build with that in mind. So being able to know, who am I? Would they be themselves? Would they be them and their family? Would they be an organization? Or would they be someone who is in a partnership? What do they need? In the age where we're in, data was one of the components I talked about. So what KYC information do you need to know? What do you need to collect? And how do you factor this within the customer journey? And then what actions do you want them to be able to take? Do you want them to just learn more? Do you want them to maybe be able to book a call? Do you want them to maybe play a video? And this really translates into multiple things. And at the end of it, you're able to get specific perspective on how to build for the customer and for the consumer. And then with that in mind, being able to solve for your client and really solve for them, solve for the problem and challenge that they have. So that in mind is consumer facing. Customer facing, client facing, one of the challenges that you will face is the maturity, the maturity stage. So where are they on the digital maturity cycle? Do they have no maturity? And what does that mean? Is that they've never interacted with any website, they've never had any presence in any social channels, maybe they don't even have an email. And if that's where they are, what does that mean for you as a developer who's trying to solve a problem for these guys, as someone who's trying to create something for these guys? Maybe they're at a conceptual stage, and that means that they have an idea. They have Instagram on their phone, so they have an idea of how it works. They've been to multiple websites, so they know what that looks like. And then where do you play in when you find someone like that? Are they at a defined stage where they have thought about this, they know what the website does for them, they know what social does for them, and you're just coming in to now articulate and bring to life what they have defined already? Or are they at a place where they've already done this and they're at an integrated place and they're looking to create new platforms, new channels, and bring them together to what they already have? And lastly, they could be at a transform stage. And at this particular point in time is where you find yourself in a place where you're digitally transforming an entity. They might be having legacy systems. They already have web portals. They already have websites, channels, communication entities. But then where they are right now, they need to change. Their business is transforming. So depending on the different places where your customer is, where your client is on the maturity cycle, the engagement differs. So how are you setting yourself up to be able to, first of all, know where they are on that scale, and then also to know how you need to serve and approach them? For us internally, we've been able to build a model that we take clients to. We do a number of audits to be able to grade them and scale them, to define where they are on that maturity scale, and then what will be the best solution to offer them there that solves all their problems for them, but also sets them up for success in the future. But with all of this in mind, one of the challenges that we have as developers, some might summarize it as left mind, right mind. We focus on the technology, we focus on the framework. We're good at knowing about WordPress, the new plugins that does X, Y, Z. We know about Joomla and the newest update. That's what we are good at. That's what drives us. But from everything that we've spoke about, there's brand, there's communication, there's social. How do all of this sit? How do all of this play within the digital universe, the digital space? I think the simple answer for us all is collaboration. So as developers, I think that's the easiest thing to be able to do. Go on GitHub, look at someone's code, be able to share code, be able to ask our friends. That's easy when it's developer to developer. But then with all the things that we're talking about, especially with being able to build with consumer in mind, someone else, someone who might react to a brand, someone who might react to different communication, that's a different space. So how are we setting ourselves up to be able to collaborate with those individuals, collaborate with creatives, collaborate with content creators, collaborate with brand strategists? That really is how and where the answer lies for the digital experience platform. So if we were to take anything from today and all the different elements that we've talked about, from data, from brand, from digital, from social, it's that all of these things need to come together for us to be able to build a digital experience platform for our clients that serves their customers or their consumers in the way that it needs to. And for us to be able to do that, it's developer centric. We have to know what we're building, but we need to be able to collaborate with brand people, marketing people, to be able to bring and integrate all these solutions together. And that's something, that's an experience that we've learned at Alternative over the years, working with different customers, clients, and being able to bring all of this in light. So that's been my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me. You can stay updated and connect me on LinkedIn. My name is Nelson Leonard Litter. Thank you very much for your time.